P226 Type 1. The original P226. Sig Sauer engineers built the P226 in 1984 specifically to compete in the U.S. Army's XM9 service pistol trials, re-engineering their existing single-stack P220 design around a genuinely new double-stack magazine to meet the competition's strict 15-round capacity requirement the Army had specifically written into its own official trial specifications. That redesigned magazine, combined with an added ambidextrous magazine release and a double-action first-shot trigger pull, let the P226 go head-to-head against Beretta's own 9.2F entry as one of only two pistols that actually satisfied every single trial requirement out of the entire competing field submitted for evaluation that year. The P226 reportedly outperformed the Beretta on raw reliability too, recording roughly 2,877 mean rounds between failures during testing compared to the Beretta's own 1,750. Yet the Army still awarded the full military contract to Beretta specifically because SIG's total package price, including magazines and spare parts, ultimately came in higher than Beretta's own competing bid during the final round of negotiations. That specific loss, beaten on total contract cost rather than genuine pistol performance, became the defining origin story that followed the P226 through every single variant that came afterward, an underdog narrative the pistol's later reputation would eventually overshadow entirely. Military procurement decisions genuinely hinge on total package economics rather than pure raw performance metrics far more often than most outside observers realize too. A specific lesson the P226's own origin story illustrates about how defense contracts actually get awarded in practice. P226. Type 2. The Mk25. Reports of Beretta M9 slides cracking during actual training exercises began surfacing among Navy SEAL teams in the late 1980s, with at least 3 documented cases of operators genuinely injured when slide components separated from the pistol mid-firing sequence during otherwise routine training exercises. Investigators later traced that specific failure back to the higher pressure ammunition SEAL teams used in their own 9mm submachine guns rather than any fundamental flaw in the M9 pistol design itself, though the damage to SEAL confidence in the Beretta platform had already been done by that point regardless of the eventual root cause. The Navy formally adopted the P226 for SEAL teams in 1989 as a direct response to that exact reliability crisis, eventually designating the specific SEAL spec variant the Mark 25, featuring a chrome-lined barrel and a corrosion-resistant nitron finish specifically engineered to survive the genuinely brutal maritime environment SEAL operators regularly worked in across ocean deployments, humid jungle terrain, and every other harsh climate their missions actually took them into. That maritime-specific durability requirement genuinely shaped nearly every design decision behind the Mark 25 variant too, since a pistol carried through saltwater immersion demands corrosion resistance standards a typical land-based service pistol never needs to meet. That same Mark 25 carries a distinctive anchor engraved directly onto its slide, a marking that became one of the single most recognizable visual symbols in all of American special operations over the following decades of continuous documented service across multiple theaters and conflicts worldwide. That anchor engraving genuinely served a dual purpose too, marking the pistol as authentic Navy-issue equipment while simultaneously becoming a genuine point of pride for the specific operators trusted to carry it into real combat situations. The Navy SEALs carried the Mark 25 for a genuinely remarkable 26 consecutive years of continuous service before finally transitioning to the Glock 19 around 2015 and 2016. And SIG eventually released a civilian version of the exact same Mark 25 specification specifically so ordinary buyers could own the identical pistol SEAL teams had trusted for over 2 decades of continuous deployment. That civilian release genuinely capitalized on a real marketing opportunity too, letting SIG sell an authentic piece of documented special operations history to civilian collectors and shooters who specifically wanted the exact same reliability specification without needing any military affiliation whatsoever to actually purchase one. P226 Type 3. The Elite SAO. Sig built the Elite SAO as a genuinely different trigger philosophy from the standard P226's double-action first shot, converting the pistol entirely to single-action only operation with a consistently light, short trigger pull on every single shot rather than the heavier initial pull a standard DA/SAP226 requires on that very first round fired from a fresh magazine. That fundamental trigger redesign genuinely required SIG's engineers to rework the internal firing mechanism considerably beyond a simple external adjustment too, since converting a design originally built around a double-action first shot into a genuine single-action only platform touches nearly every internal component involved in actually releasing the hammer. That single-action only conversion specifically targets shooters prioritizing genuine trigger consistency above all else, since removing that first heavier double-action pull eliminates the one meaningful difference in trigger feel between a pistol's very first shot and every follow-up shot fired afterward from the exact same loaded magazine. That consistency advantage genuinely matters most during competitive shooting scenarios where a shooter fires dozens of rounds across a single stage, since any variation in trigger feel between shots can meaningfully affect a competitor's own timing and accuracy under real pressure. Competitive shooters and dedicated range enthusiasts specifically favor this exact configuration for that same consistency reason. Even though the single-action-only design demands more disciplined manual safety habits than a standard DA/SA pistol's heavier first pull naturally provides on its own without any additional training required. That specific trade-off genuinely mirrors a broader pattern across the entire firearms industry too, since single-action-only designs consistently trade a small measure of built-in safety margin for genuinely improved trigger consistency, a deliberate choice serious shooters accept once they've developed the disciplined trigger finger habits the design specifically demands. P226 Type 4, the X Series. Sig built the X Series, including the X5 and X6 models, as genuinely dedicated competition pistols, hand-fitting individual components together at the company's own German manufacturing facility to considerably tighter tolerances than any standard production like P226 ever receives during its normal assembly line process. Those tighter tolerances specifically address the exact small mechanical variances that can meaningfully affect a competitive shooter's own consistency, shot after shot. Variances a standard production pistol built for reliable duty use across a huge range of conditions simply doesn't need to eliminate to the same demanding degree. That hand-fitting process alone earned the X Series a genuine reputation as the P226 platform's own premium tier, with gunsmiths individually tuning triggers, adjusting sights, and customizing grip panels specifically for each unit rather than relying purely on standardized mass production assembly used across the rest of the broader P226 lineup. That individual tuning process genuinely takes considerably longer per unit too. One of the real reasons X-Series pistols command a noticeably higher retail price than any standard duty-oriented P226 variant sitting on the exact same dealer shelf. Competitive shooters specifically favor the X-Series for practical pistol disciplines where that extra hand-fitted precision translates directly into measurably tighter groups and more consistent trigger feel across an entire multi-stage match. A genuine performance edge standard factory tolerances alone typically can't guarantee shot after shot regardless of how much raw skill the individual shooter actually brings to the competition. That German hand-fitting process genuinely reflects SIG's own dual-country manufacturing heritage too, since the company maintains production facilities on both sides of the Atlantic while reserving that specific premium hand assembly work for its original European home facility where the platform's own engineering roots first took shape decades earlier. P226 Type 5. The Legend Series. SIG introduced the Legion series as a genuinely premium performance tier built directly onto the standard P226 platform, adding a short reset trigger system specifically engineered to let a shooter fire faster, more consistent follow-up shots than a standard trigger reset ever allows across an entire string of rapid fire. That specific engineering focus on trigger reset distance genuinely matters more than casual shooters might initially assume too, since even a small reduction in how far the trigger has to travel before resetting can meaningfully speed up a skilled shooter's own practical rate of accurate fire during real competitive or defensive use. That same Legion package also includes a distinctive gray Cerakote finish, upgraded X-ray sights, and a more aggressive grip texture. Combining several genuine performance upgrades into one single cohesive package rather than forcing a buyer to source and install each individual improvement separately through the aftermarket parts market. That combined package approach genuinely saves buyers real money too, compared to purchasing and installing each individual upgrade piecemeal, while also guaranteeing every component was specifically engineered to work together rather than simply bolted on independently. Sig specifically markets Legion Series pistols towards serious civilian shooters and law enforcement buyers who want measurably better out-of-box performance than a standard P226 delivers. Without requiring the fully custom hand-fitted process, the considerably more expensive X Series demands from every individual unit built. That specific positioning genuinely fills a real gap in the P226 lineup too, sitting deliberately between the standard duty pistol and the fully custom competition tier, giving buyers a genuine middle option rather than forcing an all-or-nothing choice between basic factory specification and full custom pricing structures. If you've ever wondered how a pistol that lost its biggest contract still became trusted across special operations anyway, that's the kind of story this channel keeps digging into. Subscribe if you want. The next one explained the same way. P226 Type 6, the P229. Sig built the P229 as a genuinely distinct sibling platform to the P226 rather than simply a scaled-down copy, introducing a solid steel slide milled from a single billet rather than the standard P226's stamped and welded slide construction used across most of the earlier full-size lineup. That machining approach genuinely represented a real manufacturing evolution too, since milling an entire slide from one solid block of steel demands considerably more precise tooling and machine time than the earlier stamped and welded method, a trade-off Sig judged worthwhile for the added strength and precision the finished slide ultimately delivered. That steel slide innovation, combined with a shortened barrel and grip specifically sized for easier concealment, made the P229 genuinely popular among agencies needing a more compact duty pistol, without sacrificing the exact same DA/SA trigger system and overall reliability reputation the full-size P226 had already established across military and law enforcement service worldwide by the time the compact variant actually reached the market. That reputation transfer genuinely mattered for agencies making a procurement decision too, since adopting the P229 meant inheriting an already proven track record rather than gambling on an entirely unproven compact platform built from scratch. The United States Secret Service specifically adopted the P229 as its own standard sidearm too, valuing that same combination of concealability and proven reliability for agents whose entire job depends on carrying a genuinely dependable weapon while staying visually unobtrusive in a professional setting surrounding senior government officials. That specific agency adoption gave the P229 its own genuine reputation entirely separate from the P226's Navy SEAL Association, proving the broader Sig DA/SA platform could earn trust across genuinely different protective missions, from maritime special operations to close personal protection work conducted almost entirely in plain clothes. P226 Type 7, the multi-caliber variant. Sig engineered the P226 platform to accept several different chamberings beyond its original 9mm configuration, including .40 Smith & Wesson and .357 Sig, using the exact same frame and general mechanical layout across every single caliber option available to buyers choosing between them. That shared frame approach meant Sig could develop and manufacture a genuinely wide caliber lineup without needing to design and tool an entirely separate pistol for each individual cartridge, a real manufacturing efficiency that also kept parts and magazine compatibility genuinely consistent across the broader P226 product family. That shared platform approach let law enforcement agencies and civilian buyers select whichever specific cartridge best matched their own department's ammunition standards or personal ballistic preferences, all while training on and maintaining familiarity with the exact same trigger, grip, and manual of arms regardless of which particular caliber their specific duty pistol happened to be chambered in at the time of issue. That consistency across calibers genuinely simplified training logistics too, letting an entire department standardize its own firearms instruction curriculum around one single platform, rather than needing separate training programs for each individual caliber option offered. Many agencies specifically valued that caliber flexibility during the wider law enforcement transition away from .357. Sig back toward 9mm in more recent years too, since officers could simply swap barrels or entire slide assemblies on their existing P226 platform, rather than needing to completely retrain on an entirely different pistol from scratch across an entire department. That same swap-based flexibility genuinely saved departments considerable money too, since replacing individual slide and barrel assemblies costs a fraction of purchasing entirely new duty pistols for every single officer already carrying an existing P226 frame. P226 Type 8, the pop culture icon. Fictional secret agent James Bond carried a P226 on screen in the 2015 film Spectre, cementing the pistol's visual association with exactly the kind of elite, globally capable operator archetype the character has represented across decades of continuous film franchise history spanning multiple different actors and eras. That single film appearance genuinely mattered for the P226's broader public recognition too, since the Bond franchise's own massive global audience introduced the specific pistol silhouette to millions of viewers who had likely never previously encountered the model by name or appearance in any other context. That same cultural visibility extends well beyond cinema too, since the P226's anchor-engraved Mark 25 variant remains permanently linked to Navy SEAL mystique in the public imagination even years after the actual SEAL teams themselves transitioned away from carrying it as their own standard issue sidearm across every active team. That lasting association genuinely outlived the pistol's own actual military service life too, proving a strong enough cultural connection can keep a discontinued duty weapon commercially relevant for civilian buyers decades after its official replacement. Sig has leaned directly into that same lasting cultural association in its own marketing ever since, continuing to reference the Mark 25's 26-year SEAL service record and its anchor engraving specifically because that history still resonates powerfully with civilian buyers who want to own the exact same specification pistol elite operators once carried into actual combat overseas. That same marketing strategy genuinely reflects a broader pattern across the entire firearms industry too, where a documented military or special operations service record consistently drives civilian demand far more effectively than raw technical specifications alone ever could on their own merits.